So we are recording now. So as normal, good evening, everybody. This is our Thursday evening. What are we on? Content chat. Yes, on our evening about content. So I just want to quickly run over what we've done so far. I know there's only 4 of us on the call this evening, but I know that there are others like Leon who's just started, etc. So the process we have gone through so far is just to remind everybody, the first thing that we did was we did this content strategy guide. This was to simply get us to a point where we would have an understanding of what content we required in the very early stages before we brought our beta testers in. We then brought our beta testers in, so most of the circles that are going to be active have somewhere between 5 and 10 existing members, and content is being produced for them. What we concentrated on last week really was producing our member personas. And I earlier on in the week sent you an example of Meet Debs Pryor. But then I have also, because I'm diligent, we have another target audience for circle leaders. So his name is Steve Percy. Okay, but you don't need to see him. That's just for me and Shane. Okay, then we also did a value proposition worksheet to identify how the real value that you can provide to these people. Now, what we're going to move on to this evening is customer journeys and producing a marketing framework. This will be much easier if you have completed your member personas and your value propositions. And the thing to remember about what we're going to cover now, it is the absolute core. And if you take nothing away from these last 3 nights or 4 nights, this is the thing that you need to take away. And this is what this will be me hammering this video to other circle hosts and all that sort of stuff, because this is the absolute key, and it can be applied not just to circles, but to any marketing strategy that you ever need to do. So without further ado, let me share. I'm going to share my screen, and then I'm going to take us into a presentation. So share, and then we come into this one. Okay, so as I said, what we're going to start off with today is this customer journey analysis, and this is actually a chop up of a presentation I first did back in February 2016, and then I termed it as how to simplify your life. So what we're going to use is what's called the moment of truth theory, and so actually I'm just going to take you straight to that. Let's just go straight. We're going to watch a video now for 1 minute 43 seconds. Which I thought I had lined up, which I do around here somewhere. Nope, I haven't. Okay, so here we go. Yeah. So let's just play this.
Marketers have been using a 3-step mental model of marketing for a long time. Stimulus, like developing a TV ad. Shelf, focusing on point of sale, which has historically been called the first moment of truth. And experience. Should succeed, right?
Sorry, did I mute that?
Yes, Guy, it was muted. Could you also turn the volume up a bit?
Okay. Right. Let's just start that again. Sorry, guys. Stop. I might have to edit this bit out later on. Try doing with the speaker. Okay, try again.
Marketers have been using a 3-step mental model of marketing for a long time. Stimulus, like developing a TV ad. Shelf, focusing on point of sale, which has historically been called the first moment of truth. And experience. People take the product home and experience it. They can have a good experience or a bad experience, and they share it. This is the second moment of truth. If marketers spend time on these 3 steps, they should succeed, right? We investigated this theory. We conducted a comprehensive study with research partner Shopper Sciences using 5,000 shoppers across 12 categories, from groceries to cars and financial products. The goal, show where influence takes place as shoppers move from undecided to decided. We found that the average shopper used 10.4 sources of information, up from 5.3 sources in 2010. We asked shoppers what sources they used to make decisions, when they used it, and how influential is each source. When we lined up their responses, a fourth step appeared in the marketing mental model, the zero moment of truth. This is when consumers do their research, get smart about alternatives, read reviews, look for coupons and comparison shop, all before going to the shelf. When we compare the steps, the zero moment of truth pops up as highly relevant and influential. Consumers have changed the way they have approached decision making. As a marketer, have you kept up, or are you still using the old mental model? There's a new mental model now, and marketers that can now keep all these steps spinning gain a very competitive advantage in today's marketplace.
Okay, so did we all get to hear that in the end? Yep. Okay, right. Let's come out of that. We're going back into here where we were before. Okay. All right. So I will send you the link of this later on. Watch it as many times as you like. So the first thing just really want to cover, is this anything new? Google claimed that they have invented this whole moment of truth theory, and that the zero moment of truth was something wonderful that turned up in 2008. It didn't. It's been around for thousands and thousands and thousands of years. The simple example that I normally use for this is describing how we used to buy cars in the old days. I remember back in the 80s when my dad would say, I need to have a car, or I need to change my car. And we would go through this whole process, which I'll just touch on in a minute. But essentially, go down to the Boucher Road, look at all the cars that you might want and all that stuff. But I'll come on to that in a second. The point being is that the humans are the same. They have been the same for probably 100,000 years now. It's just the medium and the media has changed. The other thing is that Google talks of 4 moments of truth: the stimulus and awareness, zero moment of truth, first moment of truth, second moment of truth. But there's another ultimate moment of truth as well. So don't forget about that, which we'll come on to. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put this all into a little exercise. So before we start, we have our demonstration players. Our hero product is a product called PizzaDo that you might have heard of back in the day. And just so you know what it is a kit for making pizza at home, a frozen kit where you get 2 frozen dough balls, the sauce and the pepperoni and the mozzarella cheese, etc. Former client of mine did quite well, and so anyway, there we go. That's what we're going to use as our example product today. And of course our demonstration players. Now here we go. You might remember Debs on the left-hand side. So Debs, that we've talked about before, has been as a member, but actually the reason why I've used Debs here is because Debs has, from the same persona, can be used a number of times. In this case, now we're looking at Debs' life as a mum of 2, who I think we remembered are called John Jr. and Sally, who happens to be a picture of them there. Okay, so just a little aside, just remember that people can fit into a number of or personas can be adapted for the same person, can be adapted for a number of various areas. But that's another marketing thing. Let's just move on. So the first exercise that you need to do, okay, is to write down the customer journey actions. That actually should say the customer journey actions. All right. And they start at the top, and in this case, I've just got down as NI Mums and Relaxing Couple, and that action is that when Debs is going to be informed or going to become aware of us, she's not doing anything specifically relating to us. So usually just that fill in with a very brief description of who they are. So Dudnan Mum, or she's part of a Relaxing Couple, etc. Now, in Debs' case, when you're buying, or when PizzaDo's case, when you're buying the product, or when you hear about it, what normally happens is that people usually jump online, whether it be through their mobile phone or whether actually through their mobile phone. And when they've got that, then they can't buy the product online. it being frozen, all that sort of stuff made it a bit more difficult. It is, when we produced this plan, it was being sold through Tesco. And so the next stage of their customer journey is they arrive in store. Then they'd make an in-store purchase. Then they would defrost it. Then they would prep it and cook it. And then they'd enjoy the eat. Then they'd clear up. And then hopefully for us, they would share the news. Now, note we didn't stop at the point where the sale or them joining the circle, etc., was made. All right. And the reason being is that because actually their next exercise is just put some little arrows on it, add some detail. So when they go online, they're actually, where are they going to go? They're going to look at our competitor's website, our social media, our Facebook, our Twitter, and all that sort of stuff. And also when they arrive in store, they're likely to look at competitive pizza products or other frozen products in that category. A couple of other things I like to do here is I also like to note the really difficult pinch points. So you can see that that the word defrost has a big around it, because actually that becomes a bit of a problem, because what it means is that it can't be considered in the fast food category. It has to be considered, well, you've got to prep 6 hours beforehand, because you need to defrost the product before you start. Okay. So, but stick some arrows in to help your thinking, and think of this bit in the middle as a bit of a washing machine, because people go round and round and round and round and round in this area whilst they're doing that research. Now, having done that, and I've got a customer journey in place, I can then do something else. Then split it into those 5 areas that we talked about. Okay. So we decide at which point they're in the stimulus and awareness phase. At what point they move into our research phase, the 0 moment of truth, when they start thinking about us and looking at us, and where the line is where they cross over into that first moment of truth. Now, that first moment of truth, depending on what you're trying to do, a lot of people describe it as first moment of truth is when a purchase is made or when they sign the contract or whatever. For me, the first moment of truth can be when they make their first commitment to you of some sort. So it might be that your first moment of truth is when they download a white paper or give you a call or whatever you want them to do. All right. But in this particular case, we're going to stick to the common denominator of that it's going to, first moment of truth is actually when they make the in-store purchase, when they actually hand over cash, or decide that they're going to put it in their basket and hand over cash. Then, of course, they take it home and they defrost it and they do all that prep. So that second moment of truth is all pretty simple. It's standard. It has to happen in that order. And then hopefully, if it's been a really good experience, they'll share the news. And a couple of points on this. If somebody ever asks you why social media is so important these days, and social media has always been important, it just happens to be that we have it in an electronic form these days. The point being is that if you follow that arrow to the right, share the news, it goes up and it brings people back into, actually it's slightly misleading, it actually brings them in here, but it takes them through this 0 moment of truth straight away. I.e., if I said to you, you should try that Pizza Do product. It's absolutely brilliant. That's great. And at which point you go, oh, okay, Guy says it's brilliant. I trust Guy, if you're wise. So I, Guy, have made you aware of the product. So that's covered off this area here. And I've also said, do you know what? It's really good. I'm willing to give it to my kids. At which point you go, oh, okay. If he's willing to give it to his kids, then absolutely fine. Then I've taken them through the 0 moment of truth. And then you go, and then that person then carries on through the first moment of truth and so on and so forth. And hopefully then does the same again. So if you want to understand why social media is so important, it's because the stimulus and awareness phases and the 0 moment of truth are the really, really expensive bits, as you'll see in a minute when we move on to a media column. All right. So if anybody asks you why, that's why. And that's why it's worth spending money on community managers or whatever it may be. And I'm sort of slipping out of circle host mode here into marketing strategists, etc. But they are very, very closely related and the principles still apply. So the next thing that we need to do is identify their need. Now, actually, before I go any further on that one, the thing to remember is that people will always come in at the top of the customer journey, and they will go sequentially from one to the next. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. From one to the next. I'll leave that there for the time being. All the way through. They are not going to miss out a stage. You cannot go from the stimulus awareness phase straight to buying. They will always think about it. Okay. You may question that, but I'll come back to that a little bit later on. So the first thing that we're going to do is identify their need. And the thing you will notice here is that the need changes in each of the phases. So in that first phase, when we're talking about Deborah and wanting to feed the kids, she has a basic need of feeding the kids. She hasn't thought about pizza do, she hasn't whatever, but she has a basic need to feed the kids and ideally doing something different but simple to do. All right? So if you immediately persuade her of that, then she's happy enough to go into the next stage, okay, where her needs have changed again. Now have changed. This time, she's more interested in other, probably more detailed information, like, does it taste good? Is it nutritious? Because I'm giving it to my kids. Is it easy and fun? Am I going to get value for money? Is it free from whatever it needs to be free from, okay? When they move on to the next stage, if you have convinced her of those, she moves on to the next stage. At which point, it's her needs have adjusted again. Taste is still there, value is still there, but this time, remember, she's in store, so she probably has the kids nagging, and she needs it to be easy to grab. It needs to be easy to find and easy to grab. Then, of course, when they get home, needs have changed again. It needs to be easy, full stop. It needs does she need other ingredients? Part of this whole thing is that you can chuck as other ingredients. You can open the fridge door, and if you've got lots of bits of ham and whatever and parsley, whatever left over, you can chuck it on the pizza as well. So to spice up, to improve the product, it's designed so that you add other ingredients. So I need other ingredients. The kids need to enjoy it. It needs to taste great. That needs to be worth the effort, not just worth the money, but worth the effort. Now, a lot of the needs are similar to previous ones, but they're augmented with other needs all the way through. And finally, they need to have, in that ultimate moment of truth, we want them to have the need of them to be able to say, that was great. All right? Now, if we have our need, and I'm sorry, there is something missing here slightly. Up here, we should, once we've written the need, that we then insert the value proposition that you've done before. Okay? So all this area is you imagining to the left, the customer journey, the actions list. This is you remembering or working out in your mind, doing a thought exercise of what steps is this person going to have to go through for me to take them through this customer journey. Then what are their needs in each of those each part of that journey. So if these are their needs, what messaging do I need to give them where and when? All right. So, and that messaging is a mixture of the need that they have and the value proposition that you've created. Quick tip here, if on the value proposition that you've created, try and reduce it down to 3 or 4 words, okay? I think for this one, it was tasty, nutritious, and fun, or something along those lines. I'm really sorry it's not there. Next time I present this, it will be. But, so we take that value proposition and the need, and we can see that when their need is feeding the kids and something different but simple, we're saying, yes, it's easy, educating, and fun. Or it's easy, just how you like it. And both of those statements answer that need whilst considering the value proposition. Now note, these words that you're using here are not necessarily the exact words that you might use in any communication. It's the messaging that you're trying to get across. We're not copywriters. I'm not a copywriter. And a copywriter who's paid lots and lots of money could turn that into something really nice and useful. But all we are concerned with at this point is to get that basic message down on a piece of paper. What message do I need to get into her hands or head? And as you can see, we then carry on doing that in each of the other phases. So in the 0 moment of truth, when she's looking for more detail, her needs have changed. When the need of taste comes up in her mind or questions on her lips or whatever, we're saying it's just how you like it. Is it nutritious? Yes, it's all natural. Is it easy and fun? Yes, it's easy, educating, and fun. Is it value and is it free from? Free from we could cover, but is it value? Yeah. Also, not only is it good value for money, it helps you clear the leftovers out of the fridge. So we've convinced her there. She's moved into the next phase. What is she? Again, she's back into taste. Okay, it's tasty. I promise you, try it. Value. Yes, there is value, and this time because she's now at the counter or near the counter, we can say, look at the price. And kids nagging and easy to grab. We need to be saying, here it is, grab it. Here it is, right over here, and all the way through. So this is where also it gets quite important. Where we picked up the defrost question. The first thing is that don't forget to defrost it. Don't forget. And actually, just an example on that one, what we did was we produced fridge magnets that allowed little Johnny to say to Mummy the night before, "Oh, Mummy, can we have pizza do on Friday night?" And Mummy would say, "Okay, just go and get the fridge magnet and put it on the fridge, just to remind me to take it out of the fridge or the freezer in the morning." That sort of stuff. And you work your way all the way through the process. The idea being here is that you are just picking out those nuggets of messaging that we need to get across. Note that there are probably 8 different messages there, 9 different messages, and we're not trying to give them all 9 messages in one go. We're giving them the messaging in the right place at the right time, hopefully. Well, at the right time, whether it's in the right place is another thing, because that's what we're going to do next. The last column we put in here is the media. Now, the media here doesn't necessarily have to mean TV or radio or press or social media or LinkedIn or whatever, okay? Media means, if in this case, means any way that 2 or 3 or a number of people communicate with each other. So in this case, for example, that right at the top of here is word of mouth with other mums, okay? And then word of mouth between the kids, between other kids talking about it. Now, in other cases, that might be water cooler moments, or it may well be to create awareness, we need to do TV here and all that stuff. This particular case, we didn't have the budget, or actually, we didn't need to. But also, you can see I'm putting down Facebook news feeds, as in shares, but also we had Facebook in people's Facebook news feeds in sponsored posts. Next bit is actually we've got them through that phase and on to the next phase, excuse me. And in this case, okay, we know that they're going to go to our website. And so our website is where we're going to conduct this part of the conversation. We know they're going to go to our Facebook. We know they're probably going to do a Google search, particularly on word of mouth. When mums are to imagine that conversation going on. Oh yeah, we did this thing called Pizza Do, and the kids loved it. Blah blah. Or what's it called again? Pizza Do. Oh yeah. Well, so rather than write it down, the first thing they'll do is go and Google it. YouTube, review sites, retailer sites, all that sort of stuff. So we have worked away from left to right and understanding what's required. Sorry, where Deb is going to be, her need, what messaging we need to give her, and in what medium we're going to conduct that messaging. Okay, and it goes on into the first moment of truth. In this particular case, it might have taste team in Tesco's, trays, buckets, bins, as in promotional trays, buckets, and bins. Aisle signage. Remember we were saying here it is. Well, that's where the aisle signage comes in. It's going, your Pizza Do's over here. The other messaging, actually, in this particular case, will probably be conducted in the packaging or within the kitchen itself, because if it's done in the packaging, it's not going to be seen. Particularly if you put something inside the packaging, it's not going to be seen until it's in the kitchen. And then on the obvious one, the social one, the Facebook news feeds and the shares and all that stuff. And you can tell this was done some time ago because it doesn't have Instagram in it, for example, and so on. So the whole point here is that if you have done your persona, oh, you probably can't see it. I'm waving at you because if you've done your persona and your value proposition and you go through this exercise, you now have everything you really need to determine what media you're going to require and what messaging you're going to need to put in where and when. So, normal thing, sometimes people will ask me on the biz or ask generally online or in the Bizmarang Facebook group, whatever, etc. do you think I should do direct mail? Well, my answer to that is I have no idea until you have done this exercise. What color should my logo be? I have no idea until you've done this exercise. So if you ever really want to know on the marketing strategy side of it, and I would say this because I'm a marketing strategist, I'm not just blowing my own trumpet, but when you see people giving marketing advice, detailed marketing advice to somebody online that they have never actually met, then actually it's probably really quite dangerous, okay? Because you really should go through this exercise or an exercise very similar to it. But the other great thing about this is that when somebody comes along and says, do you think, or some tries to sell you the latest type of advertising. So back in the day, people would say, oh, yes, I would sell you SEO and all that sort of stuff. The point, oh, guys, should we do SEO? Well, do this exercise and it'll tell you where the SEO, if SEO is important to you. So, for example, if I have a huge brand name for a particular product, then SEO probably doesn't need to be that important. The quickest way to get around that is to just put a very quick ad in and buy the space. But if I don't have a very good brand name, then actually a lot of keyword research on what people will be searching for to find a product like that, like yours or the one you're trying to market, then actually SEO is going to become very, very important. So the background work in SEO is going to be very important. You've got to do the keyword research. You've got to do the numbers on what's being searched for, and so on and so forth. Now, I could take you on further into the next stage of, which is on the media strategy side, is when we start quantifying all this, and we can then help it, use it to start developing in other forms sales figures. But I'm not, because we've been at it for a little while, and this is the nub of it. So, a couple of other quick points. The first thing to remember is that whether you're selling polo mints, polo shirts, polo horses, or polo cars, everybody will go through each of those phases, but the time spent in each phase will vary, okay? And they may, but they will not miss out a phase in that process, okay? So as I said, they won't jump from stimulus and awareness to first moment of truth, or first moment of truth straight through to the ultimate moment of truth, because they miss out the second moment of truth. Not entirely sure I mentioned, but second moment of truth is really all about, did they get the experience that they were expecting, and so on and so forth. So if you want to get a good review, you need to make sure that the second moment of truth is in good order. So again, that's why, again, when I teach this, I tend to teach it, or when I instruct, and I tend to instruct CEOs, and not just the marketing managers, but the CEOs, because they need to understand that it works all the way through, from the very moment that people become aware, right through to the customer service, to the product, and how, if that second moment of truth might last for 3 years. If you're selling a new car, it's there 3-5 years, all the way through. So what have we got so far? We have determined who we're going to tell, what we're going to tell them, and where we're going to deliver the messaging. So you could now create a task list and a marketing plan. And you can actually begin to work on providing some accurate forecasts, but that's for another time. All right, so I'm just going to stop sharing now. Okay, so what I would like people to do is, in the Tomorrow Morning's Daily News, there will be a couple of swipe files, including the one that Eve waved at us earlier on. That's the very one. There she goes. I have it in PowerPoint that you can fill it in, etc. I strongly advise that you take the personas that you've done and the value propositions that you've done for your circles, and work your way through that exercise. Now, we're going to do the same, and there will be a lot of crossover between how your circles are going to, the action list that your circles are going to go through, and that what we need to help you provide with, etc. So we're going to do the same exercise, and during next week, we are going to compare notes. But we really need you to do this piece of work as well, so that we can make sure that we are all dovetailed. And then, in fact, when we launch that, there will be a lot of crossover, there will be a lot of crossover between what we're doing and what you're doing. And for us to get maximum impact, that's we need to make sure that they're all working together. So please, 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 please work your way through the exercise. Doesn't take you that long. Okay, it is probably, well, first time around, it's going to probably take you 40 minutes, 45 minutes. Okay, as you go on, they get quicker and quicker and quicker. But please work your way through it, because it's kind of central to how you're going to, or how we're going to launch Bizmarang going forward. So with that, have we got any questions from the floor? Need to unmute if you want to talk. Alison?
Yeah. When you have new, so when we have done all our exercises and you have new people that you want to attract into the Mighty Networks and Bizmarang, where are you going to advertise that? Because as I
haven't done the work yet.
Yeah.
He set you up for that, right?
Yeah, exactly. Are you sure? I actually, I couldn't have paid you to ask me that question, could I? No, but genuinely, I haven't done the work yet. But you can take a pretty good guess that actually we'll probably be pushing it electronically. And that's why I'm also quite keen that we're all singing off the same song sheet. I am thinking that when I was first thinking about this, I was thinking about really beefing up our website and having a circle landing page for every circle so that people can view it on there. I'm not convinced right now that that's required. There's definitely a rebuild of the website required, and that can be done reasonably quickly. But the short answer is I don't know yet. And I'd really like to see how you were, if the circle was a standalone, how you would want to promote your circle and how you go about it. And bearing in mind that how Alison promotes her circle and how Eve promotes her circle, even though they're in the same general space, as in on Bizmarang, they could have almost the same title and they would still have different customer journeys. All right, so you can have BMW and Volvo sat beside each other and be selling almost exactly the same state cars with same engines, all that sort of stuff. But the customer journey is very different. Sorry, the framework is very different in terms of the needs and the messaging. The needs might be the same, but the messaging is going to be different because the value proposition is different, and therefore different media might be chosen, and so on and so forth. Now, quite often they're quite similar, but quite often they're not. Shane, did you have one?
No, I'm fine, thanks.
Okay.
Probably because Guy does all his homework.
Are you saying I do that?
Actually, I had gone through the content strategy.
The framework document.
Yesterday. And what kept coming up for me, and it was triggered as well with Shane's question today about, who do you think you'll have? How much would you pay? Et cetera, et cetera.
That was my question. That was my question. I'm not lumbershaming with that one.
I told you were doing all this homework. The stimulus awareness piece for me is coming from my old lead base. So it's email, it's relationships on LinkedIn. It's, I'm very interested in how this evolves, but for now, it's pretty much along the lines of my existing funnel.
Yeah, absolutely. But you will find that this marketing framework you need to revisit on a very, very regular basis. It's a bit like a business model canvas. It should be revisited on a very, very regular basis, because you will find that actually as your circle grows, that in fact the media will change as well. It'll be much more word of mouth or amongst the existing members rather than you having to push it. Okay, it's kind of involved with the Metcalfe law and how many fax machines and all that sort of stuff. So, and also, if there was ever a law of virality, then that's when it would sort of start picking in. So it's always going to be, particularly in the sort of thing that we're doing at the moment, the really tough bit is going to be those first 5, 10, 15 customers, or 15 members, which is actually why we had you go and get your friends in first, okay? And learn from them, learn from what is the ideal persona, what is the typical persona, sorry, not the ideal persona, and learn from what they're going to require in this process, because you're going to get it wrong on the way, but also what are their needs in this process. So it's sort of kind of bringing us to this point. So the reason why we did this one first was to get us that quick kickoff, because I knew there was 2 or 3 weeks of work that was required to get these circles into, or you guys into a position where you could probably put some really good circles together. But you need to do that background work first. And that's where we are. Last push on that background work now. Because as of next week, we're into serious planning. What are we going to do? What actions are we going to take in the next 10 days? Because we've got a target date of June the 3rd. So, when it's going live on Bismarck. And you might have even noticed on Facebook Bismarck today, the cheeky little mention that something was coming, because there was a little conversation going on amongst some experts about how they hate LinkedIn now. And so I just popped in and said, yeah, hear everything that you're saying, and that's where we're going with Bismarck. Watch out what's coming in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And
I've seen recently more and more people saying, and hearing more and more people saying they're sick of LinkedIn, they're sick of Facebook, etc. So timing does seem to be right. I was just going to ask a question, Gary. I'm not sure if it's one way on what to ask exactly, but with that framework, can you try and build in a viral strategy into it? Is that used to try and create, or is that?
Well, it can be, yeah, because that's where that ultimate moment of truth bit comes in. Is that ultimate truth, that is the virality. That is where people start saying to their friends, this is how we do it, and that's how we do it. So when you're promoting the virality, it's all through that ultimate moment of truth of getting people to share, persuade, get them say nice things. But the key thing is that you will never get that virality unless you have got the rest of it well done. Yeah. Because you won't get that virality unless people have had a good experience, and they won't have had a good experience unless they passed through the first moment of truth in the first place, and they'll never have got there because they'll have done their research and all that sort of stuff. So the key thing is, so when people, again, you hear it so many times, I just really like to make a viral video and make it viral. It doesn't work like that. You have to actually have something that is a real and genuine benefit. Then people will pick it up and they'll take it away with you. They'll take it away with them. But so it's not just about this, again, the promoting on social media. Yes, you can shout about it and push it and pay for it as much as you possibly want, and it'll get you somewhere. But if you really want it to work, and this is the wonderful thing about social media in general terms, is that if the product works, it'll get well shared. If it doesn't work, it's binned. Doesn't quite work the same in politics, but for products, yeah, it can be a real sieve of what works and what doesn't work.
So one of the things that has come up for me, and it was the reason I posed the question about were you familiar with micro-networking before Bismarck, is that I really think that a few well-placed articles, more lengthy LinkedIn posts on the benefits of micro-networking, specifically geared to situations unique to Northern Ireland. So some of the industries, whether it's medical, packaging and supply, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we have some real specialist things here, and getting some of those interested parties chatting about the advantages of micro-networking would be really helpful, because my experience here in Ireland, North and South, is that, no, I've never heard of it. Okay. Whereas I have a colleague operating in Geneva right now where they're fighting about which of these micro-networking platforms are better. because everybody's using them.
I'm just conscious that I'm going to stop the recording now, because otherwise it'll take me hours to get it uploaded. So yeah, I'm not saying we shouldn't continue this conversation, but thank you very much to everybody else who wasn't here, but I'm just going to stop that recording now.